people. We have Ronnell Richards with us. What a man. The guy has somewhat of a similar profile to myself. I call these folks serial entrepreneurs. Forgot the term that you use, a hyphenate or something like that. Just quite interesting.
Multi-hyphenate.
It's like multi-potentialite or something like that. Anyway, like you're probably on, I call them also eagle eye, because you love flying high and seeing your whole empire from a distance, and probably, oh, okay, I need to invest there. I need to move these tokens there. And yeah, I think that's how folks should build businesses in 2023. But before I introduce you, podcast brought by podbuyer.com, which is my company to help you start or scale a podcast. You want to get insights, amazing guests like Ronnell Richards, and leads and clients. Podcasting is the way to go. We might talk about that today with Ronnell because he's probably into that too. Figuring out the guy now. He's into many opportunities, and yeah, just love his profile. So hope we can bring the heat to you today. Ronnell, can you introduce yourself and tell us about all of your businesses there?
Yeah, absolutely, Charles. So yeah, as you were alluding to, my marketing team has done a great job in creating copy. They have a lot of fun with that with me. So yeah, they've used the term multi-hyphenate, meaning that I got a lot of jobs. That's the bottom line. So yeah, I run a company called Business Bourbon, and is really revolutionizing the way that business leaders and entrepreneurs connect and network, right? So we run just amazing networking experiences that help people to build relationships and to connect on a deeper level. In addition to that, I run, Ronnell Richards LLC, which is a consulting firm where we help mostly technology companies scale their sales organizations, train their salespeople. Recently released a book here this last year called "Shut the Hell Up and Sell," which has done really well out there. We're really excited about that, and it's really everything that I do, whether it's Business Bourbon, whether it's our consulting firm, it's all really focused on helping sales leaders, helping entrepreneurs and founders to get back to the fundamentals of doing great business through building deeper relationships, right? So if you talk about my book, Shut the Hell Up and Sell, it's really about the philosophy of saying less, of really connecting deeper with people, with understanding what matters most to the person that's sitting on the other side of the table from you and focusing on them. Oftentimes I find that we as salespeople, we talk too much. We think that we're the most important person in the room, and we're not. So it really helps. The book is again focused on helping people to get back to quality salesmanship, quality relationship building, which I know I've been around a few years and a couple of decades in business. So one of the things I've learned over that course of time is that's what's really fundamental to creating a strong business, right? Creating it, which is creating these great relationships built upon value, built upon integrity, and alignment. And so that is mostly what I focus on. Now, I do a lot of speaking, do a lot of traveling around for that. I do a lot of events and things. So yeah, multi-hyphenate in the sense that there's a lot of things that I do, but everything centers around those basic themes, Charles. And that's really just paramount and fundamental to everything that I do. Is all about educating around it, and I'd say evangelizing on the proper way to do business. And this isn't, I always like to clarify with people, this isn't like altruism. This is intelligence. A lot of times I think people lean into, the words like service and serving their customers, and it sounds like fake. It sounds, because it is fake. They're kind of like pimping altruism. What I'm telling people is that that sort of philosophy is fundamental to doing great business, right? So, if you can really tap into, building relationships, serving others, understanding what that means, you'll be more successful in business and be able to do this for a long time. And it'll be fun. You'll enjoy it.
Love it, dude. It's the first time I hear the word pimping used in a negative tone, because, it's like pimp my rides. I always had a positive connotation with that word. Talking about that, I want to know where your ambition comes from.
Oh,
Talking about ambition, there was this 50 Cent song that I used to listen when I was younger. I think, oddly enough, rap culture like gave me this huge ambition, this ego, sure, when I started out in life. But you grew up in Atlanta. Pre-pod, we were talking about, the cars in Atlanta. It's like the pride and joy of the people there, and it's like stunting is the word I would use there. Um, where did you get your ambition from?
yeah. So that is an easy question for me, as I was born into this. My parents were very intentional about training me for entrepreneurship, training me for independence. And my parents are entrepreneurs. I grew up in business, and so that ambition was just drilled into me at a very young age, right? And at the end of the day, like, when I'm looking at, and I'll first, Charles, I want to push back against that whole, like, what I call entrepreneur porn, right? Which is all this BS out there, like the cars and all that bullshit. Listen, I've done all those things, but um, they're not fulfilling and they're not realistic for most people. If you are trying to you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to get in entrepreneurship, the goal and success is not it's not a Maybach. Success is freedom, that you're calling your own shots, that you get to be there for your kids' dance recitals, that you get to coach your kids in basketball, things like that, that you get to sit in the middle of the day and have some coffee whenever you want to do. It's freedom. That's what success is. So yeah, anyway, for me, I was exposed to that again at a very young age. I was one of these kids. It's kind of a weird childhood, man. I mean, a lot of kids had toys. I didn't really have toys, but I learned how to do a resume when I was like 8 years old. I, I took bank deposits to the bank for my parents when I was 10, 11. I'd hop on my bicycle. My parents owned some retail businesses. I'd hop on my bike with the bank deposit, ride to the bank, and deposit. I don't recommend anyone do that today, but but back then it was cool. So I did inventory. So I learned a lot of things, and it's all I ever wanted to be. A lot of people in the social media world know me from my, my moniker of, I'm a businessman, right? And people think that comes from rap lyrics. No, it doesn't. It actually started way before that, like way before that for me. And I'll tell you this brief little story, Charles. When I was about 8-ish years old, yeah, 8 or 9 years old, I was at a local community center. And, one of these community centers that I hung out in as a kid. And if you familiar with those sorts of environments, from time to time, athletes will come down to these community centers, right? So they can do their little PR work, take pictures with the little cute kids and underprivileged kids, whatever you want to call it. And when I was 8, I think it was 8, there was a basketball player, he was a professional basketball player, came to the little community center, and he sat us all down and asked us what we wanted to be when we grew up. And each kid said what they wanted to be. Then he got to me and I said, I want to be a businessman. That's what I said at 8 years old. I didn't know exactly what that meant at that time, but lo and behold, it's driven me my whole life and career. And I've been fortunate enough and blessed enough and honored enough to be that my whole career. So I've started multiple companies. I've had my successes, I've had my failures, but at the end of the day, here I am all these years later, and I'm a businessman.
Okay. One, I love your stories. Second, I love the fact that you have opinions and you're not afraid to put them forward. A lot of people, like you mentioned, PR is a keyword. They come on this podcast and they're really fucking bland, It's just like they're reciting a script or something. Why aren't you yourself? And I really love coming back to your definition of success, which is pretty much the same that I have. It's success. It's me and Ronnell that having a glass of bourbon in Atlanta, discussing business and freedom and visions, but you must be pretty conscious of the fact that like you're not common.
Oh yeah.
My childhood, I mean, video games. It's the opposite of yours. It's literally the opposite of what you mentioned. While other kids were playing video games, I was making business.
Mhm.
And sometimes I have these regrets. Maybe I shouldn't. I had the fortune also to have a dad that was entrepreneur. That was like deep in my subconscious. But yeah, I wish kids would start entrepreneurship earlier today. If you would have these kids in front of you at this community center, what kind of advice, quote unquote, would you give them?
Oh man, great question. So I would start with, um, so Charles, we live in this world where we're so influenced by bullshit, right? You just talked about Maybachs and cars and all that stuff. Like, it's so pervasive in our culture. It's in social media, all over the place. And so we often pursue that. And first, let me raise my hand and say, hey, sorry about that. That's my fault. That's our fault. It's my generation's fault for starting that, all that bullshit, right? Like, the glamorization of things. So I would tell those kids first, don't pursue things, pursue your passion. Find out what it is that makes you feel fulfilled. Because a lot of us that didn't have that luxury, right? We pursued things. We end up down the road not happy, right? We got things, but we're not happy. In fact, those things become trappings, right? The big cars, the big houses, well, those require big. It's funny, like for many years, I had a thing for Maseratis, and so I owned 4 Maseratis, and and people would always talk about them, like, oh, how nice your car is, and how much did you pay for it, or whatever. And I'm like, y'all don't even know the half. It's not the price of the car; it's the freaking maintenance.
There you
Like,
go.
oh, every time I take it in, they get me for $2,000, right? Like oil change, and then I run through tires every 8,000 miles. Like it's anyway. So those things become trappings, and you become a slave to the stuff, and you end up not happy. So I would tell those kids, find out what you dig, man. Find out what your passions are, and then learn business. Okay. So when you know business, you can take anything and be successful, make money at it. Like, I don't give a shit what it is that you're passionate about. You're passionate about coffee. You're passionate about underwater basket weaving. It doesn't matter. If you understand the fundamentals of business, you can take that passion and you can monetize it. So I'd say start with your passion first, and then go to school for business, find business mentors, find people that know business, so that you can take that passion and create a business out of it. You'll feel much more fulfilled down the line.
Talking about passion, so I can feel your passion in talking to people, telling stories, good ones, that is, with good lessons, educate people. How do you translate that into your podcast nowadays?
Yeah, man. So I'm a natural storyteller. It's what I do. So I have 3 shows right now. We have the Business and Bourbon show, that is on every platform. It's my oldest podcast, and it's actually it spawned a whole community. We've got like 10,000 subscribers to our community globally now, right? So we've got that. We've got the Shut the Hell Up and Sell podcast, and now we've got the Voices of Distilling podcast that'll be launching here pretty soon. So, like, for me, it's all about. I guess I lean into storytelling because it's how I learn best. Like, I'm a guy that hated, like, sitting in classrooms and being lectured to and talked to, right? So, like, and I feel like storytelling is a much more collaborative way of teaching people, right? It's more entertaining and it's more collaborative. You're bringing them in, you're having more of a dialogue instead of speaking at people. So I try to do that in our podcast episodes. I'm really engaging the audience through storytelling and through getting my guests to tell more stories as well. So again, so it feels more like I want people, like with my Business and Bourbon show, that is recorded live in person from a bar. I want people to feel like they're sitting in the chair right next to me. You know what I'm saying? So like that's just I just feel like storytelling, I feel like it's more visual, it's more of a more impactful way of educating and engaging people. So I lean all into it. And fortunately, it's something that I have a gift for. And I'm happy that I have a gift for it. And I just lean into it because that's one of the best ways that I can serve my audience.
Yeah, I'm currently developing that. I mean, I was a like little jester when I was younger, like class clown, so
Mhm.
you kind of learn to create stories from a young age. I also learned leadership when I was in primary school, somewhat came naturally, but I'm seeking to do more of that because when I get bored on this pod is when I get people not telling me stories, and just like just reciting pieces of data.
Uh-huh.
Look, ChatGPT can do that, and fun fact, ChatGPT can probably tell a better story. So really good that it comes natural. And the why is that the brain, it goes almost like 0 to 1, right? It's you need to start somewhere and you need to end somewhere. That's how our brain works. So let me tell you about the story when I was 8 and I got to be super ambitious and create that first business that brought me $1 million on
Mhm.
year 5. So it's like, oh, intrigue, boom, serotonin is up. I'm ready to receive the information. I'm ready to get penetrated with information. Sorry for the reference here, but anyway, that's how our brain works. I think it's super important. We're already on time to date, but dude, you're a legend, man. I want to stay in touch with you. Like, you have great stories. We have similar visions, and we both, I guess, started in sales and believe in the power of sales. Nowadays, I'm
Mhm.
transitioning to product, which is value, value, value. But
Mhm.
yeah, sales are like super duper important, and in both of our case, our product is sales,
Yeah.
literally. So, this pod was brought to you by podpire.com. If you want to start or scale your pod, hit me up with that. Holla. Ronald, where can people find out more about you?
Man, it's super easy. I'm everywhere. So if you want to, I know it sounds cliche, but if you want to Google me, do that. Ronnell, Ronnell Richards. There's no shortage of information out there about me and what it is that I do, what I'm about. Make sure that you go check out the book, Shut the Hell Up and Sell. So on audio, it's on paperback. It's whether you are a new seller or you are an experienced seller, it is for you. And the reason it is for you is because if you're a new seller, it's going to give you a blueprint for how to do it the right way. If you're an experienced seller, it's going to bring you back to what it is that you should be focusing on. Because the more experience we get, the more distracted we get, the more cute we get, the more we're trying to we get away from the actual work that made us successful when we started it. So it'll take you back there. So yeah, that's the best way. And if you're in the States and you want to attend a Business and Bourbon event, go to businessandbourbon.live, become a member, and you'll know, which is free, you'll know where we're at and where we're going to be at, and come out